Hi, I'm Streaky, this is Shay, and this is Metropolis Mastering, and today we're going to discuss whether you're in the box or out of the box, why, when, and how.
So, right.
Hold on.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. Yeah, you got the little cutaway there.
I'm Ronnie Barker, you're
Sorry,
Ronnie
yeah.
Corbett.
Here you go.
So we're going to discuss in the box, should you be in the box or out of the box, and why.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll start because I'm obviously out of the box. Look, there's my box, that big thing, and this thing here is my box of tricks. And I've learnt out of the box. I think you'll find that every single high-end, low-end, mid-end mastering engineer is still out of the box. I don't know one at all that's in the box. Tim Young here does a lot of things digitally, but that's using things like I've got here, which are Vice, ZSys, that kind of stuff. TC Electronics. These are sort of hardware boxes that are digital in their format, but they're still sort of hands-on. They're not in just one computer running the whole show. They're, you still go in and out of them with digital leads or a patcher or whatever.
Still hardware.
So it's hardware, yeah. And so it's kind of different. They sound very analogue-y, but they've also got this sound. They don't sound very digital to me. They don't sound very plug-in-y. So my thing is always with plugins, I still haven't found one. And I've done some, if you can look at other videos, I've done a Sontec plug-in test and I've done a Bax one. I might do some more where, for me, you just don't get the same sort of depth and 3D sound that you get with the analog stuff. And the way that the kit reacts with each other, the harmonics, the feel, the sort of, that hands-on experience is different. Although I'm not doing massive tweaks, I'm only doing sort of dB here and half dB there. But I think it's just the way they work together. And when you put things in the chain in different ways, you get different sounds, you get different distortions. For me, that's why it works best. I find that most mix engineers that I speak to, from the top end to the bottom end, pretty much 100% in the box now.
Yeah,
I don't think there's even the guys that are using the big SL mix rooms here. They're usually using a couple of faders
out the MacBook.
and it just looks good to the clients because they all want to sit behind the big mixing console.
Yeah.
They might go out of the box, stem it out for if it's a rock tune or something like that, so that they can use the compressors on the SSLs or certain sounds underneath they're recording in, or they might want to use a bit of outboard for a recording chain. But mainly mix engineers are pretty much all in the box.
Yeah.
For me, that's your bag,
in the box. Yeah, so you're literally 90% or 99% analog, and then maybe 1%.
Well, I just find that the thing is, you can only get so loud going into an A to D converter without it distorting.
Yeah.
So you need extra level, and so I always find that the digital limiters, the plug-in limiters, should I say, can get you that much more level that you need without it sucking or distorting.
Yeah.
Or you can, some of those limiters are really good now, so you can get them sounding good. Where I used to use hardware digital limiters like Youngers, which at the time were sort of cutting edge and they worked really well, but you just can't get as much level out of those anymore because I've got an L2 one here and I'd still use that, but you can't really go too heavy on it. You might only use 1.5 dB on it. There you go, it's on the floor. That's my old Younger. So I tend to use limiters for that. So I'm probably 10%.
Yeah. Whereas for me, mix wise, recall, to be able to recall a mix instantly, get a mix back up, and then it's just there. Plugins wise, it's ready.
Which you must have much more of than me. Obviously no one ever comes back.
Of course, 100%.
No, but you've got can you turn the bass up a touch? Or can you? And so you've got so many little tweaks and stuff that you might want.
But even then, still, I'm saying 90% in the box, but then that 10%, like I sum out to a desk, and I still have sort of groups out, like all drums go through 2 channels of a desk, bass goes through the separate 2 channels. Yeah. So I still use analog, but a lot of the time I don't feel that it's a necessity. I feel that nowadays, with how plugins are, UAD, Slate, even stock, like Pro Tools stock plugins for me, I can't. If you're a mix engineer, I don't feel that you should you should be able to get a very good mix out of just stock plugins that come with anything. You don't really need that hardware gear. But where it comes to mastering, I can kind of understand that the sound that you get, even a UAD plugin, like you've done the contrast between the two, they're really good, but they don't have that.
Well, they're really
that
close.
2% body.
And there's mix engineers who have listened to the Backs one that I did, for instance, and have sent the unit back.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, I don't really need it. It's so close from a mix point of view. But I'm dealing in sort of, like I say, 1 dB changes and stuff, where it can, is the factor of adding that little bit of warmth and that flavour after it's been just blanket in the box kind of sound. I think it adds more.
Yeah. See, my in the box is, I feel necessary to be in the box with then a little sprinkle of analog at the end, whereas you're more necessity having the analog with a little sprinkle of digital at the end just to make sure you've got that level. Whereas for me, it's
also when I used to write music, it was many moons ago. The setup time was hideous.
Yeah.
Because there was no in the box when I used to write music, so that's been the major change.
And the main thing is, like, even
I'm always set up the same. So although it takes me a while to recall if someone wants to do a tweak, it takes me a while to set it up again. But it's probably, I don't know, 5 minutes. Yeah. It's not 5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for recall wise, mastering wise. It would be easier if it was done plugins, but I feel I could probably get somewhere close to the sound of the layman person. Maybe wouldn't notice that much of a difference. An audiophile would definitely be able to know the difference. Someone that's well into audio would probably know the difference, that one was done with analog gear and one without. But again, I think just clever EQ techniques on a plugin, or knowing what frequencies to lift and duck, and knowing how to compress properly. You can kind of.
See, I've never heard a compressor work well as a plugin.
Really?
No, never. And also, I've never. When I go to tweak, when I have tried to use plugins, I'll tweak, say, put half a dB on, I can't hear any difference.
Really? See,
and I'll put a dB on, I can just about hear a difference. Where with this, I can put half a dB on, bang, instantly.
See, I'm the opposite. I've had compressors, like analog compressors, that I give a day to try and make sound kind of nice and like expensive compressors, and then at the end of it I just resort back to the standard Logic or Pro Tools plugin because it's easier for me to, more versatile sounding, and I feel I can get a better result from a plugin than I can from hardware. Yeah, see, I can't get the same body and feel out of a compressor when I've tried plugin ones. Yeah, it just doesn't give me the same sort of feeling inside as an analog one does. Yeah, I must admit that the low mid area doesn't feel as it like you, because when I'm EQing, you're kind of listening to the depth of stuff and how things are sort of feeling as a sound. Yeah, and it never gives me that feel. It just gives me this sort of flat feel, sort of like a cheap thing. It doesn't give me any kind of life, and I think that's what mastering is supposed to do. It's supposed to add that depth and that warmth and that feel, that little bit extra that I don't think you can get in plugins. Now, I have not tried all. I don't have the time or the energy to sit and go through loads of UAD stuff and all the ones you were saying about and go, okay, well, let's try that. Maybe we should. Maybe there's a video in that. Yeah. But I don't think I would get the same result at all. No. See, I'd prefer to try harder on the plugin to get that result than have hardware and just assume that it's going to work for me. Like, one, price-wise, if I know I can get maybe 6 or 7 UAD plugins for the price of one compressor that may work or may not work, hardware-wise, I'd go down the plugin route. One, recallability. I know that as soon as I open my session, it's saved. I've got different presets that I can save at the click of a button. It's easier. It's a lot easier. Well, also, it's like how many compressors you're going to need across the track. Loads, which is why you used to have banks of the DBS or DBX compressors or whatever, where now you wouldn't even think about that. Where I only need one. Yeah. So from that point of view, you're right. You would need so much gear, which is why people in studios used to go to massive studios with banks and banks of compressors and a wall of 1176s for tone and that. Yeah. Exactly, where it's unrealistic. Yeah. I'm still a big believer though. I believe, but you still think it sounds as good. Yeah, if you're a good mix engineer, not saying I'm a good mix engineer. If you're a good mix engineer, there's no reason you cannot get a good sound that sounds almost mimics analog wise, or a nice warm mixed sound. I mean, people that do mastering just in the box, like, again, there's no reason you couldn't get a nice sound, but you're not going to get a sound like you would from analog. Well, one of the things I prefer analog
a digital mixing over analog is the fact of the amount of noise that it used to get off stuff.
Yeah.
If you weren't a really good producer, you'd get noise from the recording, noise from the mixing, noise from it running it to tape.
Yeah.
You get a bit of, and some of that noise is nice noise, but a lot of it's bad noise.
Yeah, when there's 25 nice noises,
and you've got loads of noise reduction, ducking stuff in and out all the way through, gating it all. So some of the stuff was just, the production quality was terrible.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to sort of, master it, you're fighting the noise in the top end. As soon as you start opening something up, it's just really noisy.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's just terrible. You can't put the top end on. Where now, because everything's so clean and sort of, clinical, I can then add a bit of noise and it works. I'm adding that sort of flavour to
as
the
well
top.
with things like compression. When you've got a noisy mix, or you've got something where there's noise on noise on noise, when you start to even just compress the tiniest bit, 1-2 dB, that's still brought up quite a lot. Just the rest is the same as everything else, all the other sounds. So when it's nice and clean and the mix is kind of clean and in the boxy clean, or sort of clinical sounding like Pro Tools clean, then to master you can then give it a little bit more analog side of it then. So they do work hand in hand, but again, I mean, I'm a firm believer. 90% in the box, ease of use is the main issue. Is just ease of use.
Okay, and I'm the flip of that.
Yeah.
So if you've got any comments on whether you think you can be in the box as a mastering engineer, or whether you can be out of the box as a recording mix engineer, then let us know in your comments. But please subscribe. Thanks for watching. I hope it's helped you in some way. I'm not sure it will.
A bit of a rant. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, see you next time. Thanks. Bye.